Hey guys, it's Holly. So with the release of Thor Love and Thunder, I thought it would be fun to go back and look at one of my favorite Thor Ragnarok sets, which is the Battle for Asgard. Now, I bought this retired mainly because I wanted Hela, and it was a lot better getting just the entire set than the minifigure itself, which usually I don't do, but I'm really glad in this case because this set is actually a lot of fun, and considering Marvel isn't typically great with builds, I feel like this was a pretty solid set. So here it is all built up, and let's take a look at it starting at the minifigures.
So first up we have Thor, and this minifigure is exclusive, and mostly by that I mean the torso and the legs. The head was reused several times, including in just sort of regular comic sets. Same with his helmet mold, but overall I think he looks really good. I mean, technically this is a little inaccurate, but I also don't blame it to be, given, you know, spoilers, since he still has both of his eyeballs at this point instead of his, I guess, eye patch. On the back as well, he does have those sort of lightning thunder eyes, which look really cool with his angry alternate face. He comes along with this really nice red cape as well, which is actually slightly like windswept or like curved, which I really like. I haven't seen this sort of like cape shape before this set, so I'm a really big fan of it, and I think it looks great and really gives him a sense of action. His torso print as well is lovely. I love the gunmetal on his torso and legs there, and even just the arm printing there. Everything looks really well done, really clean, and considering Marvel figures usually don't get leg printing, this is a very welcome addition here. Underneath the cape as well, he does have a tiny bit of back printing, nothing too special, but overall I really like this outfit for Thor. Next up is Valkyrie, and I feel like these days we definitely have a much better version that has been done. However, even the original looked really accurate to what we saw in the film. Overall, I love her torso print. I think the detailing on it is pretty solid. It's nothing too special. There is just some plain legs for her. She also comes along with this specialty cape piece, which has since been reused on her updated figure, which is really good to see them continue with that. Her back printing as well is really nice. Again, very basic. Her hairpiece is amazing, and I think it's incredibly accurate, and her face as well looks really good overall. I just wish, I guess, that like her face markings and like face print was a bit bigger, and then of course because of her hair shape she can only have a single-sided face, which is a little unfortunate. However, I think that face print works really well for what we've got. To me at least, it's a bit of a shame though that we didn't get her in, I guess, her actual Valkyrie outfit instead of this blue one. However, considering she was in Thor Ragnarok majority in this outfit, I'm not surprised that it showed up in this set. Next up is Dr. Bruce Banner, and I really wanted a Bruce Banner figure for a while, and this figure is just, it's not it. Some plain black legs, a reused sort of jacket piece that doesn't really look like his jacket in the movie, kind of odd face print and hair that I personally really don't think matches Mark Ruffalo's at all. So overall, I mean, this figure is quite a bit of a disappointment. I mean, the head is really the highlight of this figure. Otherwise, I feel like I would just make a completely different and custom version of Bruce Banner. His alternate head though is by far the best part, with the green eyes as well as some raging eyebrows and face. I think it just looks great overall. It's just, again, such a shame at what they had done for him, considering, I guess, there's just the potential possibility. Like, I feel like there are so many other hair pieces that could have worked better in this case. Next up is the star of this set, Hela, and I love her so much. This minifigure is incredible. However, just like Bruce and Valkyrie, I feel like she could have dealt with a little bit more detailing. I would have loved to have seen some leg printing for her, considering Thor is the only one in this set to get leg printing, and I feel like this character really deserves it. The best part about her by far is this custom sort of like rubbery headpiece that is exclusive to this set. It's really soft and pretty, I guess, just easy around to remove. It's not going to break off, it's not going to snap, which is really good. There's also not a lot of printing, which means that printing is probably going to stay on. Her torso print looks incredible. I think the green cape really works well with her as well. She's also got some really nice back printing as well as an alternate face, and also comes along with a hairpiece for when her hair is down, which I don't think is overall too accurate, but I'm really glad that they did include it just in general, as I feel like with a lot of characters, they probably just would have left her with the helmet and left that as is. But by far, she is the highlight of the set, and I'm really glad to have this minifigure. And lastly are the two, as the LEGO.com description calls them, berserkers. I mean, they're really not that special. Again, just have some plain black legs, have these sort of like blade pieces, which look like they've probably come from Ninjago in their hands to, I guess, represent their claws. But overall, there's really not too much special about this minifigure. I mean, the torso detailing is cool. The face printing, again, is cool, but because it's dark green on black, you really can't see it all that well. I mean, even their back printing, you can barely see it, especially with the little neck piece around. Overall, I feel these minifigures are fine, but I just wish that we got only one of them rather than two in this set, because I feel like they're really just filler. There are a little couple of side things with the minifigures. Firstly is this small build to go along with Hela, which basically is supposed to be an extension of her legs. So you just stand her on the top here and suddenly she becomes, I guess, extra tall, extra menacing. However, this whole thing just sort of revolves on one point, so she can really only, I guess, fall forwards or stand up incredibly straight. You can't actually move either of the legs separately, so I really kind of don't understand the point. I mean, it's a little neat and works kind of well for display, but other than that, it doesn't really serve much purpose. There also are some Power Blast pieces in the images. It looks like there are black versions. However, at least in my set, I just got the regular sort of trans blue ones. And then also Valkyrie comes with one of those sort of like classic Lord of the Rings swords. Besides that though, there really aren't that many side builds. Our first build for the set though is the giant sort of wolf creature that Hela rides throughout the majority of the third act of the film, and overall I think this build is pretty good. I mean, it's got some bulky looking leg joints with like really wide hips, I guess, and a really narrow body, but I mean that is just really an effect of the Mixels joints that were used, which unlike a lot of creatures actually work really well here considering the color scheme of this creature is dark grey, light bluish grey and black, so overall everything matches and melds together really well. You've got this sort of like two-part tail with the very tip being able, I guess, to rotate, and then majority of it being again on another Mixels joint. There's also a little bit of articulation in the legs, which I really love the build, how it's all completely curved over here, as well as it's kind of smoothed out using these plate pieces on the sides. There's also full articulation in the feet, which are really good, and these nice sort of tan claws in order to make it look really neat. Along the shoulders as well of the joints, you've got quite a lot of angled pieces, as well as these little, I guess, like penguin beaks, I want to call them, to really give this build a very aggressive and angry looking thing. It's very angular when it sort of comes to the top, and I love the way that the head is done as well. You've got this mouth that can move. It would have been really cool to, I guess, have like a mouth print or sticker on there. However, that unfortunately doesn't exist. However, you have got some white studs to act as the menacing eyeballs, and there are a couple of little stud connections on the back in order for Hela to stand on the beast. And overall, I really like this build for what it is, which is basically just a creature. And lastly, we have the main attraction for this set, which is the Grandmaster's party ship, as I want to call it. I am really sort of shocked looking back that this ship was made. If you've seen the movie or remember the scene, you'll know exactly what I mean. But honestly, I'm really glad, because I feel like if LEGO did know a little bit more about this ship, it wouldn't be made, which is really unfortunate if that was the case, given how cool this ship looks and how well I think it translates into LEGO form, especially at a playset scale. I love sort of the really hollow look to it and use of like all of these curved pieces. I think the stickers really add a lot to this build as well. Same with all of the little cylindrical tile pieces and some of these curved corners. Overall, it's just a very interesting model that I feel like we haven't really had before in LEGO form, and for that, it makes me really excited. Now the ship overall is really basic in design. It's very flat, it's very pancake-like, which honestly I don't mind too much. At the base as well, there are a ton of these little grey things in order, I guess, for it to just move around slightly as it's on the ground and sort of smooth and slide. However, these little Technic joints do sort of stick up a little bit above that, so funnily enough, it doesn't actually sit on any of these grey pieces, which I find kind of interesting. There also is a very slight play feature here where you can attach Bruce Banner's legs to this little grey plate here, and then on the top, if you turn it around, you can push down this little yellow button here and the minifigure will come flying off the bottom, sort of as if he's jumping off the ship like in the movie, ready to turn into the Hulk. At the back here, there's also a little hatch that can flap up. I'm not really entirely sure what is supposed to go in here. I guess you could sort of stick some minifigures in here. You could have Thor standing in it. However, none of them would fit if you were to actually close the hatch and make it just feel a little bit more complete. Besides that though, there's really not that much in the back end. However, there are a couple of studs in order to act as boosters, as well as this stickered curved piece here. Overall, it feels incredibly smooth, especially I guess for this sized build, which at the end of the day comes down to a lot of this being like slope pieces and wedge pieces and things like that. On either side of the cockpit as well, there are two stud shooters with little purple studs attached, and I think they blend in pretty well. They're also on these tiny hinge pieces, so there is a tiny little bit of motion on them, but nothing I guess too major. And then lastly, you have the cockpit with this giant sort of typical plain piece in a dark trans, and then you've got a little space to fit a pilot, which I mean depicted in the images is Valkyrie, but we're going to make Bruce Banner look a tiny bit more useful than he actually is in this movie and sit him in there. And again, there is a little stickered control panel here, which again has some little purple panels, so I love how the whole color scheme sort of blends in with one another. Besides that though, there's really only space for one minifigure. There's really no interior in this, and I guess that at the end of the day really comes down to the scale of this ship as well as just the overall design. So that is the set, and overall I really like this. I mean, sort of like equivalating it to today's standards, this to me is definitely like the goat boat equivalent of the Thor Ragnarok wave, though I really feel like this really needed to have Korg, especially looking back at it. The fact that we've only just gotten him with Thor Love and Thunder coming out is honestly quite disappointing. I wish we could have swapped out one of these like little beast creatures in order to get him, especially since the Bruce Banner minifigure was pretty weak. I mean, the highlight of this set definitely is Hela, but overall I really love the ship's design. I love how unique it is, and I'm really glad that LEGO did make this and probably didn't get told what this ship actually is so that we could get it made. The animal build as well is also really good and a very solid, I guess, structure, and I'm just really happy with this set overall, especially considering what I feel like LEGO Marvel sets are really like in terms of their builds. I wish we could get more ships like this that are incredibly unique and bright and colourful, but I just feel like it's probably not going to happen, so I'm going to enjoy this set for what it is. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below, and until next time, I'll see you later.